Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to In Pit Lane's Google Hangout. We are apparently live right now. This is In Pit Lane, the victory lap. Thanks for joining us, anybody who is joining us out there. As you can see, I'm on my own this week, or on my own so far, so if anybody's out there and wants to get on board with this particular hangout, just jump on board and we'll introduce you to everybody. Seeing that I am on my own, I suppose it's probably a good idea to just basically have a chat, and we'll keep this short because not much of a hangout if it's just you. The question and answer panel on our YouTube channel apparently isn't working. The Q&A app, it says this feature is disabled. I don't know why it's disabled. Perhaps Malcolm Turnbull has made it illegal. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, we went down to Phillip Island on the weekend. If you were down there for the Shannon's Nationals, the Shannon's Nationals is really funny. There are some meetings that, it just, quite frankly, they can be fairly dull. And then there are times like over the weekend where they put on one of the best value for money weekends that you have. There was like 8 categories on there, some great racing. Formula 3 was terrific. Small field still don't know why Formula 3 really hasn't taken off in this country. The cars look great. The racing was really good. I suppose it is basically economics, but if you listen to the people within Formula 3, they will tell you that it's really not that much more expensive than Formula Ford even, and they're certainly comparing it with the cost of this new Formula 4 that's coming up. So not sure exactly what the problem is there in terms of getting Formula 3 up and running. It just doesn't seem to have attracted the public's imagination. If you saw the show earlier, you would have seen that we had a chat with Ian Richards, and we'll put the full interview up with Ian up later on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. But it's interesting to see that Formula 3 are quite bullish about the whole idea of Formula 4. Because they believe that the success for Formula 4 will lead to increased success for Formula 3. Not really sure about that. I think one of the problems, everyone knows that Formula Ford is pretty pissed off with what's happening, but I think that there's concern for Formula 3 as well. As we were saying with race winner Simon Hodge, we've got a situation next year where really this year's Australian Formula 3 Championship, if he or she wants to go, have a higher profile to be on the card with the V8s and all the rest of it, they're basically going to have to go back to Formula 4, which is inherently a slower category. You could have the ridiculous situation where the Gold Star winner, the CAMS Gold Star, the prestigious CAMS Gold Star winner, will be racing in Formula 4. Not sure how that's all going to work. Also, just on the Formula 4 subject, we have invited Eugene Arocca, the CEO of CAMS, to be a guest on the program in a couple of weeks' time. At this stage, hasn't committed 100%, but says he should be. We've been told he should be available on probably October the 8th. So that's Wednesday night, October the 8th, and we'll have hopefully have Eugene Arocca in to talk about Formula 4. He released a press release today and an open letter to the motorsport community, a very interesting open letter where he singled out the Formula Ford community and was quite scathing of them. It's interesting that, in the past, CEOs have been very sort of, sitting back in the corner and not saying much. There was none of that from Eugene Arocca, and perhaps it's coming from his football background. He feels that he has nothing to lose. He doesn't need to worry about making friends within the sport. He's going to do what he thinks or what the board believes is best for the sport as a whole. But certainly his comments have upset a lot of people, and there are still, as we said last week's show, that we've got some problems. I'd see Philip Taylor, the dangerously talented one, Mr. Philip Taylor, has joined us. Greetings, Phil. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
This is a strange small box I'm in somehow.
It is a very strange small box. Phil, well, did you have trouble getting on board? Is this your first Google Hangout, Phil?
I was in. I went to one, but I didn't actually participate in it. I just watched.
Yes, welcome to Edwin's Google Hangout. I'm not sure now. Right now. I'm not sure what's going. I'm not sure what's going on there.
There's lots of echoing.
There,
you know, do row your boat gently down the stream. You know, that sort of thing. It's a fun feature of it.
I think that's probably being a bit advanced for the technology. Phil, one thing, apart from looking like you're broadcasting from inside a box, you're also on an extreme close-up, which is always very fetching. Phil, where are you broadcasting from, and also what are you broadcasting with?
It's a laptop. It's a laptop, and it's on top of my lap.
Ah, there we go. And it looks like you've been eating, Phil, as well.
I was participating in paid market research.
Oh, okay. Now you've got to tell us what, because you've done this a few times and you have had some interesting experiences. So let's go there for the moment. And let's put aside the whole motorsport thing for just a second and talk about your paid market research. What can you tell us, or have you signed sort of a non-disclosure agreement?
Well, I was given 3 anonymous boxes. I ate the part of the first anonymous box today, and it was a breakfast cereal. Each of the little thingies had 3 holes in them. And I can't say, because they were white boxes. They were white boxes of little.
Yes,
Tony Gregg used to call them little cricket bats.
That's right. Yes. So they disappeared for a while. Actually, they must be about to relaunch them again, because I saw somebody on Twitter a while ago saying whatever happened to Nutrigrain. So it looks like they might be about to relaunch them or something.
Well, I had some, and it just tasted kind of like what I'm used to. Wasn't any change at all.
Oh, okay. So and so you're doing this. I imagine you're getting paid. I imagine you're getting paid for this. I would hope you're paid for this.
I'm bringing in the big Coles discount vouchers. No, not discount. Oh no, it's gift vouchers.
They're paying you gift vouchers now. I did one of these. Over at Chadstone, a few years ago, and I actually got paid, like fair income money for the. I was in there for about half an hour, and I got paid about $50, and I had some lovely cheese. So it was a win-win situation.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember going down to the one in Chadstone for the cheese. No, it wasn't the cheese; it was ice cream. I went down to. I had a lot of cheese in one of them. They just kept on giving me little pieces of cheese about that big, and I kept on eating them. And some of them were quite good. Number 603. If you get that one, hang on to it. It's good.
I always look for that one when I'm out shopping. Hey, we were talking about on the show tonight. We were talking about, of course, the topic that sort of is filling our minds at the moment, which is the death of Channel 31 and community television, and the fact that we're all going onto the internet. You're something of an internet guru, the internet celebrity that you are, with your popular, dangerously talented YouTube channel. You hang out with a lot of these guys. I mean, we would. We would put something underneath if we knew how and if the technology was available. This is Google Hangout. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But,
nothing's quite there yet.
No, and that's sort of the point, I suppose, I'm trying to make tonight with Richard McClelland. There are some things that, like this and some of the stuff that you do, which you can sort of only do on YouTube, but then there's stuff that we do with the show and shows like In Pit Lane and all those other, full-scale, traditional-style television shows that can really only be done on traditional-style television.
Yeah, well, that's a big problem for people in Channel 31 now, because there is no local content in YouTube. there was a time back in the early days when YouTube had local content on the front page. Here is something by people in your area, but that's not the case anymore. Nothing is local. It's all global, to do with interest groups, and that means that local motorsport, local ethnic groups, local whatever, can't be catered for easily. You would have to get the whole community together somehow. And sticking an antenna up your chimney and pointing it at Mount Dandenong, that's the way to do it. But, you know, it's breaking down now. That paradigm is breaking down now, and something will have to change.
The funny thing is, though, we've just had the situation in England where they have the BBC through the British government have set up 24 regional, what they call hyper-local television stations that are essentially community television stations, fully funded by the BBC with the purpose of reaching out to local communities. So you've got this situation where the right-wing government in Britain is actually setting up community television stations under sort of this BBC local model, and then you've got Malcolm Turnbull and the Australian government over here who put no money into community television already, who are now going around and just getting rid of us in order to sell off bandwidth for more home shopping networks.
Well, he'll assist with the transition, though. He will assist with the transmission. Well, Tony Abbott will assist with the transmission. He'll put on his yellow helmet, and he'll put on his protective eyeglasses with his blue tie on and his high-vis vest, and he'll go into the transmission place. I don't know where the transmission, Mount Dandenong, and he's going to transition the switch from on to off.
They'll make a sort of novelty, like Big Lever or something, and he'll say, "A new era in broadcasting has begun," and he'll pull a lever down, and there'll be sparks and arise my beauty, and we'll all go onto the internet, and everything will be wonderful. The point is, as I was sort of saying last night, you can't do sort of local television when it is global. If we want to get sort of viewers on our YouTube channel, then obviously the things that get viewers and obviously get you income on a YouTube channel are those things that have mass appeal. So it basically becomes the V8 supercar or the Formula One show. It means we drop all local motorsport completely because it's not going to get the attention. I mean, why go down and do something like a club sprint out at Sandown or Phillip Island, which has immense interest to local people, the handful of local people who take part in it and who are interested in that, but would have absolutely zero interest to people in Sydney and Brisbane, let alone in downtown Los Angeles or Bognor Regis, wherever Bognor Regis is. Oh,
it's down near the sea in Britain, apparently. But if you go if you go online and search for Formula V, you'll get a whole bunch of stuff that's not from where you are, and it's going to be far harder to even discover what racing codes, formulas is the word. Yes, formulas.
Categories.
Melbourne categories. It's just not gonna happen.
Well, you've got a fairly popular YouTube channel. I mean, in terms of how many people subscribe and how many people have watched sort of your most watched clip.
Well, at the moment it's about 3,100 and something ish, give or take. A few dozen, and my most watched clip is about 70,000, and views have been tapering off somewhat because I think it's because it's September. So it's one other thing. It's very seasonal often too.
Yeah, and I think that sort of indicates. I mean, when you've got something like, as I say, I think our most popular clip, and once again, it's a V8 supercar clip, and it's not one of ours. I mean, it was simply us taking a whole bunch of B-roll of the Nissan testing out at Calder Park and deciding to run it free of any commentary or anything like that, so people could hear the new engine, and that had about 43,000 views. But once again, when you compare that, probably the top 5 things on our YouTube channel are all national or international stories. There's things that are sort of more local, have sort of, 14, 1,500 views sort of maximum. And you're not going to be able, compared with that, as Richard McClellan said earlier tonight on the show, in pit lane is averaging, as he said, tens of thousands every week.
Well, you need to reach the niche, and you can't reach the niche if you don't have the local broadcasting. And it's far easier to get it on television than it is. I mean, you just plug your television in and plug the antenna in, and then you're going. You don't have to search through a whole bunch of channels and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose there'll be a model. I mean, there are sort of there are online networks at the moment. I mean, I subscribe to the WWE network, which apparently is available every month for $9.99, but it works really well. But they've got huge amounts of resources. This is a multi-billion dollar company, perhaps. They've got years and years of backlog of back catalogue that you can get access to, which is fabulous. But even at only $9.99 a month, and all over the world, and with all the access to the pay-per-views, all of the old pay-per-views, both WWE, ECW, WCW, all of the various federations that Vince McMahon eventually took over. Even with that, the word around is that it's struggling to survive as well. So if something like the WWE is struggling to make that sort of online model work, then what hope does Channel 31 and TVS and Digital 44 Brisbane have?
Well, things they're going to have to transition, but we've got to have to find a way to transition from through the chimney over to digital. And 15 months is not enough time to set up this new system, whatever it's going to be, because we don't have a system. We've got Yeah.
And the ironic thing as well is that Malcolm Turnbull was getting very excited about MP4, and he was lecturing us in the community television world about the brave new world that is MP4. We have news for you, Malcolm. If I know you're probably not watching at the moment, even though we are on the internet. Where is the internet?
6 people. How many people?
There's you and me. That's why we're chatting. The problem that with MPEG-4, when MP4 comes out, and all of the channels are going to transition to MP4, that's going to vary by itself because of the smaller footprint. It's going to make a huge amount of bandwidth available anyway, and if they just waited an extra 12 months until that transition takes place and everybody's on MP4 and we've got room for another, I think it's something like 50 extra channels. I mean, at the moment, it's going to be 50 home shopping networks.
You can't. There's not going to be, unless the actual channels pay $50 per show or whatever. It's just not going to be feasible to have that many channels on. They would have to all be having fish or something.
Yes, and as we pointed out on the show tonight, it was a bit sort of secretive about it, but yes, Fish TV is coming back to Channel 31 to celebrate 20 years on air. So anybody outside of Melbourne, we do regret that you're not going to see the magic that is Fish TV. Although I'm sure you'll be.
It'll be at the highlights. Highlights will be on YouTube.
highlights will be on YouTube. What are your Fish TV? In fact, you've been at 31, I think, even longer than we have, Phil. So, what are your magic moments in the history of community television? The moments that you remember fondly.
Well, there was that time when the blackfish got eaten, and
That's a favourite for everybody.
The orange fish also got eaten. Was floating up upside down for a while. Such a shame. Such good ratings. The time when we were doing piece to camera, double-headed, and I turned it on, and then the other person turned it off again. That was
magic.
Oh yeah, that was and it was just before I went to London, so it was like my big sign off. And yeah. Anyway, I went to London and I lost a lot of weight. Then I came back. Well, the thing with those magic moments on community television is not many were watched.
Yes, but as we were saying tonight, I mean, back in the day, I mean, before the digital channel, we had all these different channels. We were averaging on In Pit Lane. I mean, back when we were on live at 9:30 Tuesday, sort of our traditional time slot where people knew where we were. At the time, we were averaging 53,000 viewers a week, and we peaked at around, I think it was 97,400 and something for one particular show. And shows like Chartbusting,
that was the one where the fire alarm, was it?
Yeah, I don't know how much I don't know what the fire alarm show rated for. Nobody would probably remember, but many years ago we were live to air, and about 5 minutes into the program, the fire alarm went off, and we sort of were making a joke about it and saying, how incredibly funny it was, and please, if you can hear something in the background, just ignore it because we are. And then sort of the people came in and said, no, we think there is a fire, get out. So we just left, and you had a good 25 minutes because there was nobody at presentation at 31. So you had 25 minutes of an empty studio and the sound of a fire alarm until the fire brigade arrived and turned out. And then we could sort of come back, sit down and say, well, hope you've enjoyed that. Bye for now.
I was I there? I think I might have been there at some point during. No, I was on there on the day that they just didn't have the tape for the next show, and it got snagged or something. We became
a telethon.
Oh yeah. That was fun. I can't remember what we said at all.
No, well, neither can I. I mean, but let's face it, we were just making it up as we went along. But yes, I mean, we're getting this furious wind up from the floor manager, and then suddenly we get this word coming down. There is a problem over at 31. The next program isn't available. Keep going. And by that time, we'd said good night. I think we'd run the end credits. I think everything. And suddenly we pop up again and say, "Hi, we're still here." And we bullshitted for however long, and we got through it, and we filled it until they fixed up the technical stuff up. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about live television. We do miss live television. I mean, let's face it, after last night, if people were wondering, the last segment of that program last night was about our 14th take, I think. But yeah, we had fun.
Well, that's one of the problems with having it so fragmented like this, because people are not watching at the same time, the same thing at the same time. I mean, they've tried to bring live events back, and they've succeeded largely, with X Factor and Big Brother again. They've succeeded largely, but how long is that going to last? They can't. Not with such a fragmented audience.
And it's such.
Yeah.
It's such a shame because when you consider sort of the history of Melbourne television, it was always very much based around live TV with IMT and the Don Lane Show and Ernie Sigley and all those people that sort of I grew up with. Then you've got then it's all sort of fallen in a heap. We've got Mike Jacobson on the line as well too. Are you there, Michael? We can't hear Mike.
Mike Jacobson is
there.
There we go. Ah, right.
Michael, are you there? We can see Michael, but we can't hear him.
Could be because he's not talking.
Probably because he's not talking. He's watching though. This is a fascinating study. He's watching.
He's talking. He just doesn't have his microphone.
This is actually our tribute to the great French mimes of motorsport. So there, and we can see him. That's his famous laughing. That's his famous laughing in the wind highlight. That's always a highlight. Michael, wave to us, Michael. There we are. Mike was a sports sedan competitor and is now doing, in the old days, was also a correspondent for Racing Car News, I believe, many years ago. So, like I said, that was always one of my favourite magazines. It was probably the best racing magazine I've seen anywhere. It was a journal for people who haven't seen it from this generation. It was a journal of record. You could go back even today, and if you want to find out who won the Formula V Repecharge race at Winton in 1972, you pick up that month's Racing Car News, you open it up, and every single race, every single result was there. It was a terrific magazine, and unfortunately they sort of turned it into a coffee table magazine, and that was the end of it. Michael has disappeared now.
Well, I think that's one thing that internet is good for. You can actually get all of the results of everything online straight away. Unfortunately, it's all fragmented. It's not in the one place.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It tells you who and when, but it doesn't tell you why. It's one of my arguments about when we're writing for. This is probably going to get me into strife, but when we're writing for Auto Action, I'm filing reports from the Victorian State Racing Series, which is coming up. Not this weekend, but next weekend down at Phillip Island. You're given like 200 words to cover a whole race meeting where there's 10 categories and 30 races over the course of a weekend, and you've got 200 words to pretty much cover everything. And there's not a lot. There's not a lot. You've either got to leave stuff out or just give a very sort of cursory thing. And I try to just put everybody in because it's just, some people just pick out a couple of categories and do those categories and then ignore everything else. Or sort of my approach is just, put everything out there and try and squeeze it into 200 words, which makes it a fairly disjointed and not satisfying
a
read.
list of names.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah. So and so won the sports sedans from and then in Formula Ford, so and so won from so and so, and then you know that anyway. But once again, it's one of those things that we can show on in pit lane. We can do things like that where we go down to a meeting. We can't cover everything, and I think that's something that people. Some people don't understand. They say, "Oh, well, why didn't you show the HQs? Why didn't you show this? Why didn't you show that?" We can't cover everything. We don't have the time. We don't have the money. We don't have the resources. So we've got to go down there and say, okay, we're going to pick out a couple of categories, and usually we will pick out the sports cars because the sports cars look really, really cool on TV. You've got Porsches and Ferraris and Audi R8s, a lot of state-of-the-art GT3 cars. you're looking at it, so we put them on, and then sort of we run basically what's on either side, or just before or just after that. So we go out there and say, okay, we're filming for 90 minutes or so. We might get 3 races in. Or 4 races, and that's what we do our story on. But we can't just sit there for a whole weekend and just keep filming and filming, because it takes long enough to edit the damn thing already, rather than when we've only got sort of 3 or 4 races to. Because if you've got more than 1 or 2 cameras, you've got sort of an hour of footage from one camera, and then an hour from another, and an hour from another. You've got 3 hours of footage to
and you have to sync them together, and that's not easy. I mean, you could switch them as live, but you'd have to sync them together. And like on a live show, on something that isn't across 3.8 kilometers or whatever it is, that's not too hard. But you've got to have a sync point.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems we've been looking for ages to try and find that. I mean, you remember we used to have radios. We used to get access to radios, and we used to try and sync via radio, and that sort of worked. We can sync now, providing all of the cameras are set roughly, basically to the same time. We can't get it perfect. We can't get it to frame accurate or even second accurate. But if we set everything if all the cameras are set at say 11 a.m. at 11 a.m., we can sync by time. And it does an okay job of a rough cut, and then we can sort of move it together and all that sort of thing. But it's certainly not as easy as if you have a sync point, or if you've got the opportunity of having external time code, and that's obviously the easy way to do it. But for that you need cabling, and you need all those sorts of things, and you need cameras where you can set external time code, and they're not cheap.
No. And that's another problem when you don't have a mass market. If you don't have a mass market, you can't get the sponsorship to afford all this sort of stuff. Yeah,
I mean, we're very fortunate with our friends at Dyno Dynamics. They've been really, really good to us, and they're very supportive of what we're trying to do.
Dyno Dynamics?
Dyno Dynamics, that is, if you are looking for a dyno, an affordable dyno, the Dynotech range by Dyno Dynamic, very popular, and of course they specialise also in 4-wheel drive turbo dynos for your Evos and your GTRs and all that sort of thing. So Dyno Dynamics have been fantastic, and they're really supportive of what we're doing. But quite frankly, if we were on the internet, they're not going to get any return for investment. It will still cost us the same. In fact, it'll probably cost us more. And there's also the practical viewpoint that, like for what we post online already, I think last week our interview with Thomas Randall, which went for about 9 minutes, took me the best part of 4.5 hours to upload with our wonderful internet in Australia. Imagine if every single show on community television in Australia is suddenly uploading 30, 60 and 90-minute programs. My God, it'd take years.
Yeah, well, you'd have to bump down the quality to less than what we've got now, which is almost nothing.
Yeah, well, at the moment, I mean, I'm sending it out because it's ironic. We record the show in 1080, then it's shown on channel 31 at 576, which is standard definition, and then we put it on our YouTube channel at 720, which is a nice compromise because it's obviously smaller than 1080. But it up-reses to 1080 acceptable, and obviously down-reses to everything pretty well as well. But and they're talking about 4K and everything. God help us. I mean, but anyway, look, I think we might pull the plug on this now. We've been rattling on about almost everything apart from motorsport.
Do you have the theme tune ready? Closing credits.
I should have something written down, like a piece of paper, like the old, and just roll through. No, the technology doesn't run to credits. I mean, but basically, it's you and me, Phil. It's going to be a sort of host, guest. I suppose I'm the vision switcher. I suppose I'm the producer, and I suppose I'm the director. Yeah, I see. I can switch. I'm switching. I switch now, and I'll now switch back to you. See, I have power, Phil. I have power. Respect my authority.
Authorita. I remember. No, I don't. I get
Anyway,
that on my own show. YouTube,
okay,
www.youtube.com/dangerously-talented.
that's what I
Get
was waiting for.
crap.
If you'd like to catch Phil's YouTube channel, there's all sorts of wonderful things there. There's all
I'm
sorts of
planning on a documentary on Friday.
another documentary. Yes, Phil has a
Another
number of
documentary.
documentaries, and they're very entertaining. What's that?
It's about the world according to Texas school books this week.
Oh, I look forward to that, and I imagine the people of Texas and America. You have lots and lots of fans in America.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the things is if you go to Phil's YouTube page, have a look around at the various clips that he's got there, but always read the comments. I mean, there's some fascinating comments there.
It's YouTube. They're always fascinating.
Well, they probably won't be fascinating about this thing tonight. As I said, we were hoping to have a couple of other people on. Mike Laminato, who joined us the first night. Mike's over in Japan, the lucky bastard. So he's not with us.
They got real internet there.
Yeah, I actually heard this from somebody just recently. Someone in a food court in Dandenong who was talking to someone and did say, "Oh, do you have the internet in Japan?"
Oh yeah. Well, they'd have it. They'd have it like well. It wouldn't be what we know as internet though. It would be good.
Good, yes, good, and that's what you find out when you go overseas. It's quite a shock to see. I think the first time we went to Le Mans, which was like 10 years ago now. We walked over from where we were staying in Paris when we went back to Paris. We walked into a park and sort of opened up the laptop to sit there on a very pleasant Paris summer's afternoon. Opened up the laptop, and there was in the middle of the park there was about 5 different Wi-Fi channels that we could have chosen from, and that was 10 years ago.
And we invented Wi-Fi. Not us two. Australians invented.
No, Malcolm invented. According to our beloved leader, Mr. Abbott, Malcolm invented the internet, and what a wonderful job he's done of it.
Yes. Now he's deventing it.
Yes. Well, he's trying to drag us all across there. If you are interested in media diversity, whether you watch In Pit Lane or any other program on.
Apart from you need better internet for my program, unless you like buffering.
Well, yes, buffering as we can see tonight. But okay, look, we're gonna call it a night there. Phil, thanks for joining us. I'll see you at the studio next week. But
Yep.
to everybody else, yeah, we're gonna pull the plug on this now, and hopefully we'll have a few more sort of motor racing related topics and people to talk to next week. But
Motor racing, that means I won't be there.
No, Phil, you won't be. You're welcome to join us, Phil. Just don't say anything.
Ah, that's the secret.
That's the secret to success. The secret to success in life in general, Phil, is don't say anything. And on that note, we'll say bye-bye from Lane, the victory lap. Bye-bye. This is now the point where I press the stop broadcast button, and we see how long it takes to actually stop the broadcast. And in 3, 2, 1, stop broadcast.